What's up, everybody? I am so excited to be here and be sharing this incredible and very special episode with you on the Masculine Mastery podcast. This is a really incredible deep dive into a man's journey, a man that is a NFL veteran, has played a remarkable 12-year career as a safety in the National Football League at a very high level. He's earned all pro honors, he's earned Pro Bowl honors, played for the Bills, the Browns, as well as the Dolphins. And he's somebody that I now call a friend. He's an incredible man, someone that I deeply respect and have a lot of reverence for. And in this podcast, we go deep into his journey from NFL star to dealing with substance abuse to now exploring his own consciousness through breath, through sound healing, through plant medicine. He's now taking players and people down into the jungle to work with ayahuasca. And he's just a really incredible man overall, and really excited to share this conversation with you. But before we get into the conversation, I just want to share that we still have some spots open for our upcoming 5-day elemental men's retreat, which is going to be in Montana, in Helena, Montana, which is going to be about an hour north of Bozeman. This is at the end of June. This is 5 days of transformational work, breath work, sweat lodge, cold plunging, plant medicine. We'll be working with psilocybin, and many other transformational practices that are all going to help you amplify your health, your wealth, your relationships, your business, and beyond. So if you are a man listening to this, if you are a woman listening to this, and you know a man that you think could benefit from this space, I can promise you it is going to be epic. And we always say, if you come in and you don't have a transformational experience, we will actually give you your money back. That's how confident we are. Sean and myself, who create these spaces, who hold these spaces, it is some of the most potent work that we can do as men, is come together in brotherhood and in community. So if you are interested and you want to know more, the link is right below this video. And without further ado, let's get into the conversation. We are back for the Masculine Mastery podcast, and I am joined by my brother Jordan Poyer, who's an incredible man. You're going to hear his story. We're going to dive deep today. What's up, my brother? How are you?
Brother, I am blessed. Thank you. It is an honor to be in here with you. I'm super excited about this conversation, and I know it's been a long time coming. We've been connected for a little while now, but I'm very inspired by your path, and I'm excited to dive into the conversation.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm really excited as well. And yeah, just for anybody listening, this is our second attempt now. Our first attempt had sort of technology failed us. So we are
It's all
back in the
right.
studio and for another really potent and powerful conversation. And know that, yeah, just really diving into the depth of what Jordan's been through, which why I wanted to bring Jordan on, just for all the listeners hearing this right now, is because one, just deeply inspired by his story and his path. And I really feel that he fits the mold of really the type of man, the type of leader, the type of father that I want to bring forth more into the world as an example of someone who is truly embodied in what he's doing. So yeah, bro, thank you for everything. And yeah, let's dive right into your story, which has been a really powerful one. You've been on your own hero's journey. You've gone through the depths of many different things, including addiction and substance abuse. You've played football at a very high level. You're now working within the plant medicine realm, facilitating these experiences, bringing people down into the jungle, doing this work yourself. So yeah, let's just kick it off. Tell me a little bit about your backstory, man. What's inspired you to get to where you are today and what you're doing in this moment?
Oh, well, I appreciate that introduction. I don't take that lightly because, it has been a lot of work to, really be here sitting with you to, have the awareness that I have of myself. Because there was a lot of time in the world, whether call it through high school, through college, somewhat of the NFL, even to now, just continuing to, find my identity and who I am as a person. There was a time in my life, growing up, I come from a small town, Astoria, Oregon. A lot of people don't even know where Oregon is, so it's above California. It's about 12,000 people. I ended up going to Oregon State on a full ride scholarship to play football. Both my parents worked at a juvenile delinquent center in high school, so I didn't really get away with a whole lot. You could say I was sheltered, but my parents did a great job of raising me the right way. I got to college, and all the bad things that I didn't do in high school that everybody was kind of doing, whether it's drinking, smoking, whatever that was. I got to college, and it kind of opened my eyes to a whole new world. Everybody was drinking, everybody was smoking, everybody was partying, and I was an athlete as well. And so, and I was an extremely well talented athlete at that. And going through my seasons and having the accolades, and then there was parties, there was a long stretch of period where I was trying to find out who I was in this world, trying to fit in this world, and wherever that may be. And a lot of that led down to a lot of alcohol issues that I had. I was addicted to alcohol for a long time, but it started really in college. Both my parents, my dad, who I've never met, he's been in and out of prison his whole life for alcohol issues. My mom, she's 1 year. Her sobriety date is 1 year in front of mine, so she's 5 years sober now from alcohol. She struggled with it for a long time. And really the early part of my career in the NFL is when I really started to realize I had an issue. And I was starting to get the accolades. I had the woman of my dreams. It was just a lot of stuff that was happening in my life that like I wasn't really ready for, because I didn't necessarily know who I was. And so a lot of those instances, whether it be my relationships, the way I played, I was running away from the world, and using alcohol to do so. Football was really my escape. And, all in that, I've hit multiple rock bottoms, almost losing my wife, almost losing my daughter, to, in multiple instances, to where I finally felt like I needed to do something about it. It was in 2019, late 2019, when I first started to go to AA. And AA really changed a lot for me, and gave me, it just, we always feel like we're alone in this fight, especially with addiction problems. But going to AA and really hearing the stories from others, and it really opened up my eyes to, one, I was drinking for some reasons that were like not even on the scale of the problems that some of these people had. And so I'm like, I had to take a step back and be like, okay, Jay, let's reassess your life right here. And, AA really, I went to AA for like 6 months, and, it was a beautiful experience. And then, it was like one day, they always say one day at a time. One day at a time has turned into 4.5 years now. And, it's been a beautiful, beautiful transition. But even in the middle of that transition, I still had questions, right? I still, it was during the year of COVID, was the first year I didn't drink at all. And so you can imagine, kind of being stuck at home, not drinking, not partying, but, I still had the internet, and I was kind of started to see things in the world. I never had been into politics. I never been into any sort of anything outside that was going on. I really didn't care about, until I started to see some things that I started to question, and those questions just led to another question. Ultimately, diving into, okay, who are we? What are we doing here? Why am I here? What's my purpose? Right. And, it was like, it's like a calling, right? It's like deep down our soul knows, like, this isn't who you are. You're pretending to be somebody, you're walking around with this mask, and it just kept tugging at me. And finally, in the year 2023, I had been 2.5 years sober. Mother Aya, they always say she calls you, right? And, it was just the most beautiful calling that, I could ever imagine. Just seeing, I never really, always looking at psychedelics as a negative thing, right? Always looking at it as like a, and I look back, and it was more my lack of awareness and my lack of education towards the medicine. And so, Mother Aya kept calling me, and I finally pulled the trigger and went down to Costa Rica, had 3 beautiful ceremonies that opened my mind up and to even more than what I could ever imagine, and really showed me, peel back the layers of who I am as a person, why I'm here, how I got here, showing me that, football, it's just part of me and it's not who I am, which my whole life I had been driven by the idea that football is who I am. And,
Mm.
whether that was on the field or off the field, I didn't know how to separate the two. And really, learning how to find myself and learning how to connect with myself, that was another big step that I took in my life. A lot of people during my time when I was drinking, a lot of people that knew, my issue, hey, just pray to God, just, he'll answer your prayers. And, I would pray and, dear God, please help me stop drinking. Dear God, please help me play better. Please, whatever prayer that was. But, I realized, I never had that connection. I never knew how to connect. I never knew what that felt like, what that smelled like, what that looked like, what that tasted like, all of those, because it's all around us all the time. And, I could sit here and talk until 4 in the morning, but, it's a beautiful experience down there in Costa Rica that really allowed me to open up my mind, expand my mind, and want to continue to learn and want to continue to grow. Since then I've sat in multiple ceremonies. I just got back from the Amazon about a month and a half ago. I went and spent about a week and a half with the Yawanawa tribe and learn about their medicine, learn about their culture, learn about their way of living. It's so connected to the elements and it's so beautiful, and it really puts into perspective that, us here in the West, the materialistic world that we want, right? I want to feel better, so I'm going to go get a new this, or I want to feel better, so I'm going to go do this, and you start to realize, all the answers that you need are within, and really just starting to learn and practice, and I always tell people, like, look, ayahuasca, it's a tool, right? Like, you already have everything inside of your body that ayahuasca just kind of enhances. Same with sound, same with meditation, same with breath work, right? Like, your body is that powerful enough to produce the chemicals that come from those medicines. And if we just raise our awareness and raise our education, the answer that I got was just share love, send love, everything. The answer is always love. And when you kind of move in that perspective and move in that light, it changes everything. Changes my relationships, it changes my way of life, my lifestyle. I'm healthier, I'm happier. I look great, I'm 33. I still got some effed up shoulders from football, some fingers, but we're still moving, So, it's like I said, I could probably sit here and chit chat about that story all night. I'm super proud of just the work that I've done to get right here, because there was a time, I was very, very lost in the world. I'm just trying to figure it out, just like we all are. Not knowing that there were ways out there that would allow me to connect to myself and would allow me to let go of some of the things that were holding me back, right? Because that's really our biggest issue, especially in the West, is we hold on to things so tight and we don't let them go. And in order for us to be our true authentic self, to be who we came here to be, we're holding on to everything. We're holding on to grudges, to relationships, to anger, to whatever those negative vibrations may be. We're holding on to those. And, we got to learn how to let those go. Because when you really zoom out, it really don't matter at all. Let's just keep learning about ourselves, man, and growing, because that's ultimately what I believe we're here to do.
Brother. Wow. First of all, I just want to reflect something back to you and just number one, commend you for your growth, your evolution, you like stepping into the fire and just going for it, right? Like, even having these achievements and all of the accolades and all of the things you've experienced playing at a high level as a professional athlete, but then just being so incredibly humble to the path. Like, just to reflect to you based on what when I tune into someone and someone's character, right away, I can tell whether someone's bullshitting me or not. And I have a pretty high discernment and intuition for when that does happen. But, the first moment we connected, there was just one thing that stuck out. It was just like you continuing just to stay humble, stay to the ground, very grounded, very anchored in yourself, and just deep love, brother. So just want to reflect that first and foremost before I kind of go into the next rabbit hole.
Yeah, love, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah. So there's a lot of parts of your story that really stuck out. And one area I would love to kind of explore, because this podcast overall represents and is desiring to represent a higher state of masculinity, an embodied, awakened state of masculinity. A lot of us have to go through many different trials and tribulations, challenges as it pertains to our own fathers and the father wound and all of that, as well as the mother. But, living, not knowing your father, how has that impacted your life?
Yeah, it was fascinating answers that I got when, that those moments came up in my ceremonies. At first, I didn't even know necessarily how it was affecting me until I really started to peel back the layers and see how I was acting in certain relationships in my life based off of me, the anger that I had towards my dad not being in my life. I busted my ass to get to the NFL, and first busted my ass to get to college. Didn't come see me play once. Busted my ass to get to the NFL. Didn't come see me play once, and part of me sometimes I felt like there was something wrong with me. Like, so I don't know, like when I was young and he just didn't want me or something, and that's why he just, there was all sorts of, you know, resentment that I had towards the whole situation. Because then I see my mom and I see, she has since came to sit with the medicine with me, and has put a lot of that also behind her, but it affected her as well, which affected me because now I have a 8-year-old daughter, and it was so much of my me becoming sober had to do with the idea of I was so scared of, me knowing that my real dad's not in my life and how I felt about the situation. I didn't want that to happen in my own daughter's life. And so I knew I needed to fix that. But the hate and resentment that I had towards him, I had to learn how to let go. And to even a certain extent, there were still some things when I went to the Amazon, I sat with, because there was still something that just didn't sit right with me. Like, I'm 33, you haven't tried to reach out, for 10 years of my life, since I first got into the league. Like, I know you've had your struggles, but like, pops, if you out there, just know I love you. Just because I wouldn't be here with the opportunities that I have, with the family that I have, if it weren't for the decisions that he made, right? And I had to really learn how to sit with that, right? And love the idea that, that's his walk of life. That was the decisions that he made, and that's okay, right? We're all on our own path. And there's nothing that I can do about it. And what I can do is love the people around me the best that I can by being the best version of myself that I can. And in order for me to do that, I have to be able to let go of some of the things, like the resentment, like the anger that I had towards him, and move on in life. And that's just how it is. And so, I mean, now, like I said, if I were to see him today, I'd tell him that I loved him and that I appreciated him. And, I have no way of knowing how to contact him or where to contact him. I don't even know where he lives, but, those are some of the conversations that I would have. I'd just give him a hug and tell him, Dad, I love you. And, whatever happened, it's all right. Because we're here now, so, but a lot of that, I've sat with over the last few years, and have really tried to peel back those layers, again, because, I'm a father now, and just the idea of my daughter not knowing who her dad is, that's scary, right? Like, that's scary. So I just want to continue to do the best that I can, to be the best father, the best husband, best friend, whatever that may be, in all the people around me's life.
Mm, mm. Powerful, man. Yeah, very powerful. And there's been already a theme that's been woven into this conversation that I've been feeling into as you've been speaking, and that's essentially letting go, letting all of the things that you're carrying, the weight that you're carrying, the heaviness, the density, all of that to go, because if not, that eats you up inside. And I can't tell you enough from all of the work that I've done, being a part of many circles, many experiences, many containers, seeing men walk in there carrying so much resentment, anger, frustration, all of these things for a various number of reasons. But so many of us let that just eat us alive until it causes disease, it causes illness of some sort, or whatever the manifestation is. And, to see someone like yourself, you're still, young, you're 33, going through this, taking ownership for your life, the blueprint that you've been handed, and really truly stepping into your power is amazing, man. So again, just big love to you in that journey. And that leads me to my next sort of inquiry here. Playing within the landscape of a lot of, I guess, alpha type of men playing football, being in this environment, how was that culture of masculinity that you were around, how did that sort of shape you, and how would you now, looking back, redefine masculinity in your own terms?
I mean, I mean, the game for sure shaped me. It molded me and calloused me in all sorts of ways. And I look back at the 12 years that I was playing, and I mean, to think like when I was 25, 26, like really in it, and like 4 years in a row getting over 120 tackles, and just doing all the stuff that I was doing. It's kind of crazy, because like I look now, I'm like, dude, I don't know, like if I could redo that again, like I don't know if I could, just because again, like 100 men and 100 different egos, 100 men thinking they're the best of the best, and we are the best of the best out there, and you have to act like it, walk like it, be like it every step of the way, and so like with that, I started in this space about 2 years ago, and a lot of people, a lot of men would think it's a little soft to be essentially vulnerable, to be able to kind of let go of really what makes you who you are, right? Like some people play with that anger, some people play with that hate, some people play with, and that's all great attributes to have. But if I look back and could do it over again, I would try to learn how to channel that into a different way, like channel that hate into a positive way, right? Channel that, and there would be games where I'd go into games like, yo, I don't even like this dude. Like, I'm gonna buck this dude up today. Like, I am going to headhunting, and like, look back and like, that's like the me now is like, that's really like a alter ego of you, like call it, I used to say I'm Super Saiyan going into video game or going into to games, like really losing this sense of self and going into the game and like being something else, right? And after I started the medicine, I struggled with that for a little bit because I wanted to go into the game as me. Like I wanted to go into the game and not have to put like the mask on to be something, or like to prove that I can play at the game. And the first year, it was after I sat with medicine, it was interesting to go back into that locker room and be in the conversations that I was in, and play the game while I knew there was a whole thing going on outside of, this little system of the NFL that we're in. Like I still had to be in it, right? Like, and I still had
Mm.
to find my path within it, and it was tough, because again, you try to put your energy and you try to move positively, but there's so many people that one are just very unaware of themselves and their energy, and what they're saying, what they're talking about, what they're watching, what they're listening to, and you just kind of rather run into conversations that you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm in this conversation. The music that you're listening to, right? Like just talking about killing, doing this crazy stuff, like, and it's like, all of this, but you're around it. And so it's like, dang, like, how do I, where do I find that balance? And it took me until midway through the year to find that balance. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a little while because one, it was like, okay, like this matters, but like it doesn't matter, right? Like
Mm.
this, I love playing, but the way that we're treating, like I used to love the game. I used to love the game of football, but like now the way that it's structured, even the game today, that's changing, and it's just like we treat it. I mean, it is a business, but it's like, damn. Like you look at it like this is a whole system in itself, right? And I'm in it. Like I am in the middle of it. And so I struggled to find that balance for a little while, and I found a little groove towards the end of the season. And then this last year in Miami, it was not a fun year at all. I mean, totally different culture, totally different locker room. I linked with some of the guys. Some of the guys are super cool, but again, it's the conversations that you're in, the energies that are being, especially when you're losing and you come in there and you just feel like the tension, right? And you want to like change it, you want to shift it, but it's like there's only so much you can do because you need everybody, right? You need everybody collectively, like let's do this together. But so I mean, yeah, it's taught me so much, and again, I feel like I have like a sixth sense of just feeling energy and knowing where I need to move, especially in those times because it's a practice, right? Like it's not like you go back and do the medicine or you come back and your world is all like, hey, everything is much better. No, you practice in each moment to, figure out this game of life that we're in. And some days are good, some days are bad, but then the day you keep learning, you keep growing. And I'm thankful for the terrible experience I had out in Miami this year. Like I'm thankful for it because I learned so much about myself, about the world around me. If I ever become a coach one day, what not to do on a team. So again, thankful for all the experiences. And I guess to answer your second question, what do I think my opinion on masculinity?
Yeah, yeah,
Was
yeah,
that your second question?
yeah, yeah.
Um I you would think like, if somebody not me would say probably, yeah, somebody who is a big grown man that can get shit done. If something were to happen, you scrap it up, and like that's masculine, like, right, like being able to handle yourself. Like, okay, cool, but like I also think masculine is being able to express how you feel and share how you feel and be open to how you feel, because again, like we think we can do it all alone. And I think that's one thing that I learned is through on this journey is that one, I'm not alone. And two, I don't have to do this by myself. Like if I just ask questions and be open and tell people like, yo, like I'm struggling right here, right? Like I need help. Like, and one of my slogans for my foundation is it's okay to ask for help. Because again, I think a lot of the times masculinity like that term, just like psychedelics, it kind of gets skewed by different different groups, right? And so you can define it however you want to define it, but if I'm saying my own opinion, it's being your true authentic self and being okay with who that is and expressing that when needed to be, and not feeling ashamed or feeling sad or feeling that somebody else feels some type of way because you're expressing you. If that's your true authentic self, that's what I believe masculinity is.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing your insight and into that. And yeah, it's so interesting listening to your story and kind of the past couple years of having gone through what you've gone through, sitting with the medicine, allowing the veil of truth to be seen, and to then walk into that environment and continue to be yourself. And in a way, it's almost necessary to play that intense of a sport to have an alter ego, to have that other aspect of yourself. And I feel like probably a lot of guys are operating like that. But then to having go back to the locker room, go through this experience like that, to me, and what I feel into from your experience of you sharing, is like the ultimate spiritual practice. How can you truly like be that light, amongst maybe a lot of darkness, a lot of shady shit, a lot of weird stuff that's
Right.
going on or whatever. But yeah, man, it's powerful.
Nah, yeah, I appreciate it. And again, there were days I'd drive into work and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, please, it's like, give me something good today, universe, you know, like just give me anything. Conversation, like somebody coming up asking me about something other than these music we've been listening to and this conversations we've been having about a whole lot of nothing. You feel me? Like I don't like to have conversations about nothing. Like
No, man.
that's like one of my pet peeves is like when we talk about absolutely nothing, bro. Like I dislike it, and like to get out of those conversations sometimes it's very awkward, but sometimes I'm just I'll see y'all boys later, you know?
Yeah, bro. And then that, I mean, that's precisely why we're having this conversation, going beyond the
Absolutely.
surface and showing people what it can be to have a deep conversation, to connect in this vulnerable, authentic way, man to man. And this is also one of my intentions with this podcast is to show that to the world. And, you can come from any background, any place, but just showing up real and raw. And that's
Absolutely.
really what I think it's all about. And, I guess based on, of course, now, bridging into your experience, working with the medicines, having this past life in a way, of course, playing in the NFL, and now, of course, you're starting to see more people. I know you're friends with Aaron. I've seen Vaughn in some of your videos, people coming down and getting curious about this realm now. It's like you're opening a door in a way for other players and other athletes to be like, okay, maybe I do want to give this a shot. What have you seen now with the transition? I guess the elevation of consciousness, it's creating this shift in people and people starting to feel curious
hmm
when before they would say, oh, that's woo woo, or why are you even doing that, or whatever the story is. Yeah. What's been your experience with that?
I used to be one of those people that would have pointed a finger at myself and be like, yeah, that's some woo woo, like stay over there, right? But again, as I continue to learn and grow and adapt and evolve, I'm starting to realize like I came here in this specific time period because of this shift that we're in right now, right? Like I don't see, the more I learn and come back with tools, the more I realize like the we are here to grow and to evolve, and we are here like it's not me versus you, right? It's not you versus him over there, like and again, there's a system on both sides, right? There's a system that wants us for good, that wants us to evolve. There's a system that wants us to be enslaved by, call it the matrix, whatever you want to call it. But so like in that system, like they don't want you to like me as a Caucasian man and an African American man. That's the division that they're trying to separate us from each other through race, through religion, through politics, all of these outside things that are pointing a finger and making us point the finger at each other, and instead of taking ownership in our own skin, and it just takes one person to be like, you know what, hey, I'm sorry, I love you, let's continue to like let's work together, because it's that separation. Like God, we're not separate from God. Whatever you want to believe in, God's source, whatever, but it's all goes back. It's all the one, right? Like we're not separate from the one. It doesn't matter if you're living over there, if you're living over there, we are all connected to the one. And so when you see like when I go into ceremonies and I see the Awanawa come together as a village and as a community and see how powerful that is, like that gives me so much hope. Well, it gives me so much hope, but it also gives me perspective. Like how do we grow up in America and we send our kid off to school for 12 months, 12 years of their life for 8 hours a day, and then make them work, bust their butt to get a college degree, and then send them off again to a 4-year college. So now I'm as a parent still paying my rent over here. Now my kid is paying their rent over there. And maybe I have two kids. One kid's going to school on the East Coast. One kid's going to school on the West Coast. Now they finish college. One kid's now living in Florida. One kid's in Texas. And now you're all separate as like, how is that our system? Like that is crazy to me. Like we're separating our family system. We're destroying
Yep.
the entire family structure by the separation aspect of it. And it blows my mind that like I homeschool my daughter. Like that's just my personal opinion, but I want her to be able to defend herself physically, emotionally, mentally when she doesn't agree with something. If there's something that's like, yo, I have a question here. I don't agree with that here. I want her to be able to articulate and defend. And yeah, that's a whole nother discussion. But I mean, I do believe that humanity is in that state right now where we are realizing and starting to ask those questions that I was asking. Who are we? What are we doing here? Why is this happening? Why is all of this division? When's the last time we woke up to some good news? When's the last time we woke up and said, "Hey, whether it be the war is over, or we shook hands with China, or I don't know, just something good to where we can smile about and be like, okay, we're moving in the right direction." But it's that's not happening, and so I always felt like, okay, what can I do to make the world a better place? I have an 8-year-old daughter. How can I go make the world a better place? Oh, I can go. Yeah, you can go do community service. That's great, but like it starts within. It starts with me, because if I can make me better, if I can live in my most authentic self, that energy is going to resonate to everybody else around me, and it'll make everybody else around me better. And then if I can be my true authentic self and resonate with others, through my experiences, through my stories, through my platform of playing football, it just takes one person. If I can touch one person, then that person is going to touch another 2 people, and then it just spreads like a web. But we are in that time right now where humanity is starting to ask those questions again. Who are we? What are we doing here? Why am I here? And starting to tap into the power of self and the power of the mind and the power of the heart, with plant medicine modalities, with sound healing modalities, with breath work, with yoga, meditation, connecting to the mind, the body, and the spirit, and realizing that we are such powerful beings and we are stronger together, right? Like, and that's what essentially the system doesn't want us to be. Is they don't want us to be collective. Like, they don't want you and I having these conversations. I'm surprised that the internet hasn't shut it off yet, because they're probably like, oh, we got it's AI is crazy, bro. But yeah, they don't want us having these conversations. They don't want us coming together and realizing who we are, where we came from, why we're here. Because it's like the movie Ants. I don't know, or no, A Bug's Life. That's a perfect movie, is a Bug's Life, where the grasshoppers are kind of running the colony, and the ants finally find out they're stronger together, and they actually multiply the grasshoppers by like 10 to 1. And so it's like, when we start to continue to have these conversations and we start to continue to ask the right questions, humanity's trending in the right direction. And again, I don't see any other reason. Like, I came here for exactly this, to have these conversations, to spread my light, to be a light. And, people like yourself inspire me to continue doing so. And so that's why I'm here having these conversations.
Yeah, bro. Thank you. Thank you. And likewise, and we have very similar values as well. As far, I'm a father as well, raising my 5-year-old, very much similar mindset in that. And really, even higher, and this is a whole nother conversation, but really bridging into community, because you go down and you look at, for example, the Yawanawa. I lived in Africa and Tanzania, in the villages of Tanzania, for 2 years of my life. No electricity, no modern amenities, living amongst the people there, serving the people, and working there. And that experience, having left the corporate world, I was working in the corporate space, in the tech space, working in sports too, and just seeing the difference of having left that world behind, and partying all the time. Don't get me wrong, it was a great time. But then leaving
Hmm.
that and actually having the stark contrast where you are living amongst people that don't have anything materially, but they have all the inner riches within themselves, because they're together and they're thriving in this community and unity, in this way in which they have each other's backs. And that is
Absolutely.
something that we absolutely have completely obliterated in the United States and the Western world, because we live in these silos. And think about how many people, I mean, this firsthand, plus all of the other people out there, all of the men listening to this right now, that struggle with addiction, with substance abuse. And ultimately, the suicide rate of men is even higher than women because they're trying to
Mm,
hold it all together. We're not meant to live this way, and we never were. This
mm.
is all so deeply programmed. But yeah, that just what you said there really fired me up. So I had to share that.
Yeah, bro. I can hear by you the way that you talk. You know how deep it goes, bro. But that's a whole nother conversation for sure.
It is. It is. Maybe that's part two. We'll see. Um,
Yeah, that's got to be part two for sure.
Yeah, bro, I can keep doing this for sure. I want to dive into, your experience now, right? Like we've been talking offline. You've been, thankfully to you, you've been repping the beats and breath and doing the breath work. You're doing sound healing. You got this whole venture in Illuminate, what you're creating, what you're putting out into the world. You're going down into the jungle. You're doing these ceremonies. What are you most excited for right now in this stage of your life? Like what really is lighting you up, and what is your vision moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. There was a moment when, first off, rewind, before I went to Costa Rica with my mother, it was the second time I went to go sit, and I brought her with me. When she told me yes that she would come, it was probably like within 6 months. So, um, I waited those 6 months for the hug that got from her after her first, second, and third ceremony, but really after her
Mm,
third ceremony, and her thanking me for bringing her there, and just like that feeling right there, I get goosebumps thinking about it. And like not even just her, it was my boy AC thanking me, my boy Vaughn, and, everybody just like like you figure something out, like you unlock something, and like that moment right there gave me a lot of insight and a lot of I don't know if that's the right word, but a lot of excitement to really help build awareness around, because if my mom can go through a week of 3 ceremonies and a temescal. My mom was the most like shied off person. She was just a fly on the wall in social settings, just didn't like to be around people, like didn't like to talk, just very just quiet. And she had a lot of stuff that she was holding on to, a lot of stuff with my real dad, a lot of stuff with her family, and she's 55, 56. And so you can imagine, like, the older you get, I guess, not I guess, but the more your mind is essentially conditioned and programmed to see the world how it is, right? And I think a lot of younger people are that's why this awakening is kind of happening. A lot of younger people are a lot more open-minded and is not as conditioned, as programmed to what our parents used to just wake up and read the newspaper, and the newspaper was just telling them exactly what the newspaper wanted to tell them, right? And there was no really diving in deeper to anything. There's really no access to information like we have. And so my mom seeing the change through me, and through Logan, one of my cousins who came with me on the first time, it was very undeniable for her. And again, that hug that I got from her really motivated me to really do this and share this. I'm not telling anybody like, hey, you need to go do ayahuasca, right? Like that's not what it is at all. Mother Eye is going to call you if you want, but you can come over here and do some breath work with me, and let me take you to the quantum field and back, and let me show you the light within you. And then you tell me how you feel after that, right? But these modalities, these practices, and again, I'm not telling anybody else that I know any more than anybody else, because I'm on this journey just as much. And I always say that, like, look, I'm learning just as much as anybody. I don't know how to do Reiki. I don't know how to do, some people play the sound bowls way better than me. Like, I'm learning just as much as anybody, but we're all in this together and learning together, because if you really think about it, nobody knows anything. You know what I'm saying? Like we no, we made all of this up. We just made up. And so like it's almost like let's like kind of restart, take a step back, kind of zoom out a little bit and be like, okay, there's been some things that have been gate kept from us for a long time, and for very good reasons, right? And um But again, the more we start to wake up and ask these questions and, who am I, what am I, and do these practices and integrate these practices into our real lives and into our relationships, into our, our work, into our daily lives, just watch how the world starts to work for you and not to you, right? Like the universe is always, it's happening for us, not to us. And the good, the bad, the indifferent. You're driving to work, you pop a tire. What you learn from it, right? Like, did you learn how to change a tire? Did you get angry at the situation? Like, it happened, so what are you gonna do about it? You gonna sit here and sulk about it, call somebody and cuss them out? Like, no, change a tire. Figure out how to change a tire. Maybe you were supposed to learn how to change a tire, so figure it out. It's like, just the world is like, this is how the universe works. And so you now watch that tire pop, you put some great energy into it. Ah, my tire popped. All right, you know what, let's go change it. Maybe put a little pep in your step. Try to just transfer that energy, and then watch the universe respond in a way that you never imagined. Maybe you get a call later that day, somebody says, hey, I just I got this, got these tickets for me. I got these tickets to go snowboarding this weekend. Let's go. All right, let's go. It's like, just, that's how the universe works. It's magical. It's a magical universe, and God's all around us, and we just got to pay attention to the signs and just be. We're human beings. We do too much. We're not human doings. We're human beings. We got to be present and right here, right now. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's never gonna get here. Like, all we have is right now. There's no door at the end of at the end of the at the end of the light. Like, it's right here. It's right now. So I don't even know what the question is again, bro. I could sit here and chit chat all night. Probably just go off
No,
about,
you're good,
like
man.
aliens
You're
too.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're rolling. I love it. It's true. It's authentic. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's everything you're saying is just deeply resonant, and it's again why we're having this conversation. We're on the same level here, and this is a such an important time. We're at this precipice, and we are inevitably we're all waking up, and that's why the floodgates right now are opening on a mass level. It's why you're stepping into the work you're doing. It's why I do the work that I do. It's because everything is opening up at a massive level, and people are inevitably going to need the support systems in order to carry them through, in order to steward their awakening process. Because, not to sugarcoat this, but, this shit can be hard. It can be dense, going into the body, going into our traumas, going into our wounding. It could be, very, very intense, but it can also be light and it can be fun. And when we're together in community, when we're gathered together around the circle, working with plant medicine, doing breath work, all these different things, dancing, having a good time, like we can really lift each other up. So tell
Um,
everybody right now listening to this a little bit about Luminate and your mission with Luminate. What are you doing? What is the next steps in the evolution of your platform?
yeah, right now, Luminate is a conscious community where we help individuals find the light within through breath work, through yoga, through meditation. We hold events. We had our last event at the Auberge. We had an event at the W in Fort Lauderdale in February, where we opened the space, we created space, and we serve cacao, heart opening medicine that allows you to again dive kind of a little deeper, some non-psychoactive. So there's no psychedelics involved in Luminate. I have to make sure I say that. But
Yeah, cover yourself.
we we serve cacao, we do some yoga, and we do some really deep breath work, along with Rich, who plays sound bowls, and myself play didgeridoo and the flute. We allow people to just connect with themselves. A lot of people have stepped into our events for the first time and have never experienced anything like, we hold it ceremonial style, to where, you come in, you're getting a mat, we have fire, we have, it's very ceremonial, respect to the medicine, reverence to the medicine, and really again just doing the work within, and we have fun with it, and we go pretty deep. I've had multiple people have just superb experiences at these events, and again, those motivate me to continue doing this and helping build awareness, I recently then started a nonprofit called Conscious Living. It's a 501(c)(3) where there we are approved on church status to be able to host psilocybin retreats, and eventually down the road, that is my big picture, to be able to have my own, call it, retreat center. So it's not just psilocybin or psychedelics, but a wellness center to where you can come on a weekend and get get your breath work, get your yoga, and maybe in the next weekend it'd be the retreat of ayahuasca retreat, and that's the vision down. It's a long-term vision, but for now, again, I really just want to spread this light and spread this word, and show people that, again, I'm not afraid to talk about my wrongs. I've had a lot of them. Again, whether it be relationships, whether it be alcohol, a lot of decisions that I made in my past that I'm not proud of, but again, that they've all molded me into the man that I am today, and it has essentially helped led me to have this awareness of myself, of my thoughts, of my intentions, of my words, and move in a direction that I feel necessary, that aligns with my higher self. And so, with that, I have a great team: Logan, Samantha, Irvin, my brother Jeremy, and my mom. We all, again, we're building a community on an app called Kajabi. So if you want to check us out, we have an app called Kajabi, and you can just type in Luminate Community on there. You'll find us, where we interact with our group, with our community. It's really cool to kind of express how you want without not having to feel like you're doing too much. Like I post my flute playing on there. I post my drum playings on there. I'm gonna start some breathwork workshops on there, and just, again, connecting with people that feel that our message resonates with them, and just being able to speak with each individual. I try my best to connect with each individual of our community on a one-on-one personal level, because I think that's important. I think it's important for me to share, and to not just share but also listen. I think that's one of the things that I've learned to do a lot better, is to be able to listen and to hear people, and and just then share back with my experiences, and that's what I'm trying to create. That's what I'm trying to build. Still in the baby steps, but any conversations like these, any connections that I've made, has always helped. And again, I'm just here to help shed the light and help bring the light and help humanity become who we came here to be.
Mm. Brother, thank you for that, and thanks for everything that you're doing to be a part of this epic time that we're living in. And yeah, I feel grateful to
Absolutely.
be connected to you, and just continuing to steward and develop this relationship and allow it to blossom in whatever way it's meant to, and to be able to ultimately just create greater impact in the world through these messages, through these experiences that we're creating. So really, really, really happy about that. And if you could, I guess, leave off with any last words, anything that's super present, alive in your heart right now, what would that be?
Yeah, I always just encourage people to just tell a stranger hi, smile at somebody, give somebody a hug, ask somebody if they need your help. Whether it be at a grocery store, hey, need my help? Can I get that for you? Hey, do you want me to put the groceries in the car? Hey, how's your day? Hear somebody, because you never know how far that would go. We're in times right now where it is, yeah, like we're in that shift, and one little conversation, one little nudge, you don't know the impact that might have on somebody's life. Just a small hello. I know there's been instances in my life where just a small hello has kind of stuck in my subconscious and has given me motivations and certain aspects of my life. And so I always encourage people to just one act of kindness a day. Again, tell somebody you love them, tell somebody hi, ask somebody how they're doing. um, but that's all I got.
One love, brother. I love that. Appreciate you. Appreciate everything that you're doing. And I'll link all the, Luminate and everything else you got going on below. And anybody that wants to follow Jordan's journey, be sure to check him out on Instagram. And Yeah, bro. Until next time, I appreciate
Christopher,
you.
thank you so much, man. Keep being an inspiration to many, but I know you'll keep being an inspiration to me, brother. Thank you so much for all your work that you do, and thank you for allowing me to be on your platform today.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Peace.
Peace.